and welcome back to the EMJ Gold podcast, brought to you by EMJ, your number one open access destination for HCPs and pharma globally. I'm back in the UK, freshly landed from my travels in South Korea. I'm your host, Jade Williams. I'm not going to lie to you, absolutely full to the brim with Korean barbecue. I had such an amazing time, but I'm also very happy to be back on the airwaves with you all. Now, I'm swapping out hosting duties with Isabel this week as she is sadly under the weather, so wishing her a very speedy recovery. But until then, I hope you don't mind just tuning in to me for a solo episode. As I'm sure you're all aware, June marks Pride Month, 4 weeks of the year, every year, dedicated to visibility for the LGBTQ+ community around the world. And this year has been no different. We've seen some great Pride parades and initiatives from companies, but as we come to the end of Pride Month, the team here at EMJ Gold wanted to mark the occasion with a podcast episode dedicated to uncovering how the pharmaceutical and healthcare industries can better support people from the community. So we're going to be covering over some unique challenges that patients may face, how companies can encourage staff to bring their authentic selves into the workplace, and much more. So today I would like to introduce you, or reintroduce you if you're a long-time listener to the podcast, to our guest for today, Edmond Chan. He's the Senior Director and EMEA Therapeutic Area Lead for Haemato-Oncology at Johnson & Johnson Innovative Medicines. Now, he's been with J&J for just over a decade now. He began his time at the company in the pharmacovigilance field, and then he later moved his way into medical affairs. And in his time there, he's covered off diabetes and immunology before going into his current field of Haemato-Oncology in the last few years. Alongside all of this, he's also an ABPI final signatory. He holds a doctorate of medicinal research in therapeutic antibodies, a master's degree in medical statistics, so much more. He's very accomplished. And at the core of all of these achievements, he is also a proud member of the LGBTQ+ community. So we were really keen to speak to him today. But without further ado, let's hear from the man himself. Hi, Ed. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. How are you doing?
Hello. Thank you so much. It's a great pleasure to come back to do another EMJ podcast. And I'm great. I mean, it's great. Summer starting. It's sunny outside. Nothing to complain.
Exactly. Oh, it's amazing. The weather today has been wonderful. As you mentioned, your second time on the podcast. Welcome back. Your first appearance was back in 2021, I think. Can you give us a brief insight into what you've been up to since that time? Any fun activities you've been up to?
Oh, still working hard. I think we're having quite a lot of changes in 2021. J&J, we continue expanding in hematology, and last few years, there's so much advances for patients, and been keeping me rather busy. Good busy.
I can imagine.
Yes,
good busy. Always good. It's always good to be busy when you know you're helping patients.
Yes. Oh, and the other thing is, since we last spoke, I have a dog. It's got Tofu.
Oh, amazing.
I know.
Would love to see Tofu.
He will come on a Friday afternoon normally, about 5:30. He'll come and knock on my leg and say, "Hey, I need to go out."
Oh, what a great excuse to finish work on a Friday.
Say, no one speak to me after 5:30 on Friday. I need to walk my dog.
I need to get a dog then. Amazing. So the topic for today is one that I know is very close to your heart and mine too, and that is Pride Month. We're coming towards the end of that, or sort of in the middle of it, and we've already seen lots of big moves from this pharmaceutical industry. And so, I wanted to take some time today to talk to you about the pharmaceutical industry's responsibilities regarding Pride Month and care for the LGBTQ+ community, as well as your own sort of pathway into the space. So the first question that I wanted to ask you about this, dialing it back a bit, starting more towards your journey into the pharmaceutical industry, what led you into the space, and specifically what led you to specialise in oncology?
Oh, feels like last century. So I joined the pharmaceutical in 2012. That was just when I finished my specialist training in kidney medicine. During my training, I specialized in transplantation, and I saw some really, really exciting work on looking how immunology can control the body to react to the transplant. But there's also very exciting immunology, looking at how do we manipulate immunology to chase after and kill the cancer cells. And then I was thinking, that's actually very, very exciting. And then I joined the oncology R&D organization, J&J, in 2012. And I moved to medical affairs around 2016. And then since then, I've worked in the UK operating company, and then the global organization in immunology. and then returned back to Europe at late 2018 to head oncology. And most recently, about 3 years ago, I became the head of medical affairs in hematology in Europe, Middle East, and Africa in J&J.
Gosh, lots of different roles, all within J&J. So J&J clearly brought out your loyalty there. Do you enjoy working at the company, I assume?
I do. I mean, they are very open, very accepted organization. I mean, they felt it's part of the family. I can be myself. And also the other really good thing about J&J is they help you to move in your career and grow because what your strength and what your potential are.
Nice.
And I think that was really, really great. And to be fair, I don't recall a bad experience in J&J because I'm from the LGBTQ community.
Yeah, that's wonderful to see that companies, nowadays they're really encouraging people to be themselves in the industry as well. And that is something that we will be getting into. Leading into that, perfectly into my next question. In your opinion, in general, how do you think healthcare and pharmaceutical industries can better address the unique health needs of the LGBTQ plus community? Because, we're not the LGBTQ community, they're not every single other patient. Nothing is general.
I mean, I think that's start off with. I think as an industry, we have done a lot more in the last decade. That's for sure. But there's still a lot more work to be done. Let me just take an example. I think in the non-binary and the transgender community, there's a lot more work pharmaceutical can lead and work on. I'm going to bring a very interesting study that J&J has done recently. So this particular study is looking at prostate cancer. We know prostate cancer is not just a male issue. When you're non-binary or you're transgender, you still have the organ. Potentially, you could have the prostate cancer. So we made the deliberate effort to degender the languages and the protocol we use, as well as making sure that this specific group of our partner are being looked after properly. And I think these are kind of work pharmaceuticals need to be more active and do more. Mostly because the sexual orientation and gender identity are not well recognized in a lot of the pieces that we do.
No, I agree with you there. And I think it's really important to see that and encourage patients that maybe non-binary or transgender to come forward, because gendered language can be so alienating. And to think, oh, my HCP may not accept my condition or may misgender me. And so to see that even marketing coming from that space is becoming a lot more accepting is really encouraging.
Indeed. I think every little bit we work and we put forward will have more recognition in this partnership.
Yeah, but as you say, a long way to go.
It
definitely.
Is.
So yeah, exciting to see where we might be in the next 10 years. So moving into your specific area of expertise in oncology and hematology, are there unique challenges that are faced by LGBTQ plus patients within the oncology space, particularly maybe concerning access to clinical trials and support services that they may need access to?
I think what you mentioned earlier about those gender languages are critical, because when we describe clinical trial, we always, in the inclusion criteria, we very often really focus on male, female gender. And I think we should be broaden that, is how to be actually bring the right person into the study. And also, how do we use the right languages and making sure that people feel they could be part of the participation and also part of making and breaking the science.
Yeah, I agree. It's already so difficult to recruit a diverse clinical trial cohort as well. So ensuring that, people aren't feeling alienated. And if they see something online and think, oh, this isn't for me, then you just scroll past it. And, it's not benefiting them. It's not benefiting other patients that may, in time, be able to be healed from this disease once the clinical trial reaches that endpoint.
Indeed. I mean, the other thing we should also do better is how can we have the investigators or practicing healthcare providers able to have this conversation, right? Going back is we want to make patients feel comfortable that this is part of their identity, and they can feel comfortable to be recognized and can have an open conversation with healthcare provider to address their medical needs.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think a lot of that goes back to as well looking at how we can portray that representation through the clinical trial cohort, and so
Mm.
that people from the community can see themselves as the researchers and know that these people have my best interests out for me.
Indeed, you're absolutely right.
Mm. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So moving on to, as we mentioned at the beginning, it is Pride Month.
Mm.
What does Pride Month mean to you in the context of your professional life, and how do you celebrate it at J&J?
So,
I know you've mentioned they're very
uh,
supportive.
so I think Pride Month is a very, very important month to me and to my colleagues in J&J. In J&J, we celebrate Pride Month, and we will take pride to represent the LGBTQ community. This
Mm,
this month, actually, this year, the theme is past, present, and future.
mm,
We already have a meeting earlier this month to celebrate the opening of Pride, focusing on what we have achieved, where we now, and what can we do more in the future. And also moving forward, we will also be taking part in a lot of the Pride parades. Um,
mm,
More details will be depending on the individual country, given we're quite a big organization.
mm,
So our organization, Out and Open, will be supporting the local team to participate on celebration activities in each of the countries. Quite
oh,
excited, looking
perfect.
forward to it.
Yeah, that sounds
I got
amazing.
my pride pin on, and then my dog has a pride scarf. We're going to take my
Oh,
dog. We're going to take my dog with a pride scarf with the parade this year. That would be fun.
oh,
It's
that's
very popular.
amazing. Yeah, you're gonna have to send me photos of this dog. I'm
I
hooked.
have a picture from last year's pride, and I'll send it to you.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, that's really encouraging to hear as well, because I think a lot of companies, it's hard not to fall into the tokenism category, and I think we've seen in recent years a lot of companies being called out for that. Just sort of changing their profile picture on LinkedIn or Instagram to a
Mm.
rainbow background, and then they don't really do anything else. So it's great to see that J&J are focusing on the future and how much more they can do for the industry.
I must also add that, I mean, Pride Month is one month that help us to focus and celebrate. But
Mm,
in J&J as an organization, the diversity inclusive mindset is throughout the entire year. It's not just a
mhm.
1 month exercise.
Yeah.
As the leader in the organization, we always ask ourselves, are we behave in a way that make people feel they are inclusive? And
Mm,
also we have to make sure that we recognize individuals that are from a very different background or from a have a different needs.
mm. That's amazing to hear. Yeah. Something that lots of different companies should definitely take into account. So going a bit more into your personal life
Mhm.
again, how, if that's okay,
Yeah.
how has being your authentic self at work, you've mentioned that J&J very much
Mhm.
encourages this, how has that positively influenced your professional life? And was this always a priority for you?
I find that being authentic self is absolutely important.
Mm,
My experience in J&J and also being a senior leader in the organization, um, I think being authentic, people can see through you, right? I don't think
right.
it is very, very important for people to see who you are, representing who you are. Because if you're not comfortable in yourself, you will not be able to perform 100%, and also
Mm,
will not be able to lead the team, right?
right.
Because I think it is very important the team sees who you are, feel that you're being authentic and being very truthful.
Mm,
I think that's just very important. That is the way how I work in this
mm,
organization. And people are very open throughout the regional organization and the global organization. And in fact,
yeah.
I don't feel there was ever an issue um,
Mhm.
in the organization.
Amazing. Yeah, I think being your authentic self in work, as you say, it's very encouraging for people that may work beside you or underneath you, that know that they can come to you for anything that they may need. As you say, people can see through you very easily. So
Mm.
being sure that you're, truthful to yourself in who you're bringing into the office every day
Yeah,
is very important.
and I think sometimes I was quite surprised that by being open to yourself, um, sometimes answer a lot of questions that you had in your mind. I think in my experience, a couple of times I would have my mind think, how would people would react to me being openly gay in the organization? It
Right.
was surprisingly supportive, and I think it is very important to be open to each other. So making sure that we are able to give opportunity for people to recognize us. Conscious how much work the community, how much advanced community has got to. These days, being gay or being a part of the LGBTQ community is a non-issue, right? People are not going to make a big hoo-ha about this.
Yeah.
People, I think this is really, really great. You don't feel like you have to come out. People just feel, okay, so.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
what?
so yeah.
So what?
What's on the agenda today?
Exactly.
Let's get
So
back to work.
exactly, and that's really great. And I think we made a lot of advances. But as I said, we said earlier, a lot more work needs to be done still.
So, Ed, for my final question, what advice would you give to other LGBTQ individuals in the pharmaceutical industry about bringing their authentic selves into the workplace?
I think it is very, very important for us to be our authentic self and not hide behind a mask. Because if you hide behind a mask, you will spend a lot of time putting forward a false identity, and that will come through to your work and also affect your performance. Now, you might ask, what if my environment is not having me and letting me to be so open? Then let me put a face in your mind. Leadership is required to change the environment. And how can we be open self and start changing the environment to make the environment more open and more accepting of your true self?
Wow. A very poignant note to end on there, Ed. Thank you so much. That was a really insightful conversation. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It has been a pleasure.
Once again, a huge thanks to Ed for joining me for this episode. He was such a pleasure to chat to, and he did immediately send me a picture of his dog after the recording, as we promised. So very glad he filled through on that. We covered off so many important topics in that conversation that it does make it really hard for me to choose a favourite point. But I do have to say his comments at the end about bringing your authentic self into the workplace were especially hard hitting. I think for people that do act as role models in their community, showing your authentic self to juniors can be really important to making sure that they know that they can bring their own authentic selves into the company. And it just makes for a better environment all around. And that doesn't have to be within a company setting. It can also be just within friends. But that does bring me to the end of today's episode. I do hope you've enjoyed listening. Happy Pride Month, and I'll see you next time.